I lose my breath whenever I see you. You stole my heart, what is it that you do?
Hey everybody, welcome back to part 2 of our TTC journey. So the fact of the matter is I've actually sat down like 3 different times to film this video, and one thing or another has happened. Either my battery died or I just yabbered on for way too long. So I made myself a little cheat sheet here, and I have 5 things that I'm gonna go over with you guys since the first month of our IUD removal and the whole journey process that we have been in the last month. But basically there's 5 different kind of categories that I want to go over with you guys. So the first category that we're going to go over is the IUD process of the removal. Guys, it was simple as pie. Like, it couldn't have gone any smoother and any like less painful. It was wonderful. So I went to the same facility to have my IUD removed that I had it placed at my 6-week postpartum appointment with my firstborn son. And if you guys are new to my channel, I will link the first TTC video below. Like I said, the IUD process of the removal was really pretty easy. I used a midwife office for the pregnancy journey and birth of my first son, and we will definitely go back to that facility. We absolutely loved it. So I had a midwife remove my IUD, and it was like that. She was actually just talking to me about my side business, and she was asking me some questions, and before I knew it, it was like I was done. She's like, okay, you're all set to go, you know, can't wait to see you when you're pregnant. So it was very, very quick. There was one point where I did have a little bit of a cramp, but it was enough of a cramp that all I had to do was just push on my stomach a little bit in the lower area of my stomach, and the pain went away, and literally that was it. And maybe it was like a 2-3 second cramp, which is no different than having a period. And that is actually my next thing that I want to talk about, my first month symptoms. So a small little backstory for you guys is I had an IUD placed after my first son was born. And before I got pregnant with my son, I also had an IUD. So I've had 2, and they are just wonderful. I had the Mirena both times, and I am super happy with it. I did not have excessive weight gain. I did not have acne problems. I felt that my hormones were pretty steady throughout the whole month and everything like that. So I will definitely have another IUD placed after our next pregnancy for sure. The other thing that really is a benefit for me having an IUD is I had debilitating periods before my IUD, and I am one of the handful of people that do not get a period on my IUD, which for me, you know, some people might think, oh my God, that's awful, you know, I don't want that. But for me, somebody who literally couldn't go to school, couldn't go to work, it's a blessing for me to have that as, you know, kind of a side effect. And so my first month symptoms were just a lot of like, I don't know, a lot of mind games. So I bled for 1 day after the IUD removal. Some people will bleed for a few days. Some people don't bleed for months. So it really is a personal thing. And again, these, you know, this TTC journey is just my own individual journey. I'm not a professional or, you know, anything like that. I am just putting this out there for other people who may be in the same situation, or just wondering, you know, what is it going to be like when I go to start trying after having an IUD. So I did have some bleeding on the day after I had it removed, and then it kind of subsided. And then I had a full-blown 4-day period about 2 weeks after the removal of the IUD. Now, a 4-day period is actually pretty normal. Back 5 or 6 years ago when I was having periods routinely from being on the pill, my periods were about 4 days. Day 1 and day 4, easy peasy. It's just the beginning process, it's just the end. But day 2 and 3 were unbelievably heavy, crampy, I got some headaches, those kind of things. And lo and behold, those same symptoms showed up when I got my period this time. And so day 2 and 3, I mean, TMI, but let's be honest, you're probably here because you want to know some details. I would go through a pad an hour, and it was not like clumpy or uncomfortable, it was just a heavy flow. And so that was kind of like, wow, I'm already kind of on a period. Sometimes they say it can take, no time to get pregnant. Sometimes they say it can take, 6 months or a year after coming off your IUD. So I didn't really know what to expect, and that's kind of where the mind games came in. So along with this past month, I have been tracking my ovulation. And that is actually point number 3 that I want to talk about. So tracking my ovulation, I did a lot of research before I decided what I was going to use for an ovulation test kit. And I really hemmed and hawed about what I was going to do, and ultimately I chose to do the LH test strips, no different than what they would do at the OBGYN office. However, I found that those were extremely confusing this past month. I mean, Matt and I looked at them. They recommend that you test and then keep the little test strip and kind of like put them on paper. I have my little notebook, so I'll show you. But Matt and I would look at them and be like, oh, do you think that this is ovulation? Do you think this is the start? No, oh, maybe this day. So it was a little challenging to decipher. I kind of just wish that it was either like a pregnancy test. You either have a line if it's positive, or you have no line if it's negative. And I don't know, I kind of wish that that's more the style of testing that I had, because it also played into my mind game of, oh, this is ovulation, what do we want to do? Do we want to try, or do we want to wait and go through a couple of cycles and stick with the plan of trying to get pregnant in January? Kind of what are we doing here? And it was just a lot of like mind games of, do we, don't we, are we pregnant, are we not pregnant, those kind of things. And I think that doing the first month with the inexpensive test strips was really nice, because I felt like I could kind of gather some data, but I wasn't spending a fortune because we weren't really actively trying. So I think that moving forward, maybe that might be something that I would consider, maybe spending a little bit more on a better kit, but I'll get to that in a second. So let me show you my ovulation chart from the last month. I'm gonna just change the angle a little bit so it's easier for me to show you and talk to you. Okay, so this is the month at a glance here. And there's a couple of notes here, and then maybe potential ovulation days here when my period started. So basically on October 21st, I had the IUD removed. And then starting right away on the 22nd, I started tracking ovulation. I had a very random day of heavy bleeding here, but it didn't do anything more than just the one day, so I didn't really count that as a period. So once I was bleeding, I didn't take an ovulation test that day, and then continued on here. Now on the 30th, 31st, and 1st, it looks like those were my big ovulation days. So let me just try and get this better for you guys. Okay, so specifically this one here on October 31st, do you see how both the lines are dark, but this first line is darker than the second line here? So they say this side here the strips over on this side, that's your control line. No different than a pregnancy test, having a control line. But then the front color strip here is your decipher line. And they say that if the decipher line is as dark or darker than the test line, that you have ovulation. So it looks like on October 31st, so October 30th, October 31st, and November 1st, the decipher strips were darker than the test, like the control test. So it's a little confusing, and you can see like they all look extremely similar to one another. So it's really hard to tell, you know, is there potentially a pregnancy? Right here, so November 12th. So 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16, I had my period. And so after my period, Matt and I kind of had a conversation of how we are going to continue with the whole journey of trying to conceive baby number 2. That brings me to my next point is what are our plans? So basically, we are still on the same mindset that we want to try and get pregnant in January. Obviously, you know, there's a plan somewhere up here. There's a plan, and we don't really know what that plan is. We don't know when we're gonna get pregnant. We don't know how quick it's gonna happen or how long it's gonna take. And, you know, ideally in a perfect world, we get pregnant in January, have a baby 9 months later, and, you know, boom, perfect. But, you know, we don't really know how that's gonna go. So basically the plan is we did the first month of kind of seeing where we were at. Was I even going to get a period? You know, how were things going? This month we are taking a kind of a cool down month in the sense that we're not going to track ovulation and we're not going to prevent pregnancy. So we're just gonna kind of go on with our day. When we wanna have sex, we will have sex. And if a pregnancy comes out of that, then wonderful, you know, but if not, then, you know, we will move forward with our plan of actively trying in January. Which also brings me to the other conversation that I wanted to have with you guys, which was the ovulation tests. So I went, like I said, and showed you guys with the little dipsticks of the LH level tests. But I think in January, since we have decided we're going to actively hardcore try, that I'm going to buy the clear blue ovulation test. And basically what that is that is a very definitive, yes, you are ovulating, no, you are not ovulating test. The problem is that because my cycle is still not 100% on track, I will need to buy 2 of the tests because they are only 10 strips per test. And I may have a larger window of ovulating than the average person because I don't have a routine period back since my IUD removal. So because of that, those tests are expensive. They're $35 a kit. So needing 2 of them, if you do the math, that's $70. So we do have a health savings account that we can use ovulation tests for. So that is a nice thing, but we've also decided that we're not going to put the money into it until we're ready to actively try. Now, we may get pregnant this next month. We have no idea. We don't know what that, you know, lurking plan is for us. But, you know, if we are not pregnant in the next month, then we will invest the money into the ovulation kit that is actually more conclusive for us, and we can more, you know, intensely try. But that's kind of the next step for us. So basically what we will do is we will do a follow-up part 3 after the holidays. And when I say holidays, I mean Christmas. holidays here is, you know, Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's. So I think that maybe after Christmas, I will have another update for you guys and just seeing how things went my next month. Now, this past month, I had a 21-day cycle. So basically, from when my IUD was removed to those potential 3 ovulation days and when my period began, I had a 21-day cycle. Always in my past, I've had a 28-day cycle. So is my cycle changing because I had my IUD removed? Is it because I'm getting older? Is it because I had a pregnancy? You know, there's so many different factors. So we are gonna kind of just take a break this month, recoup, just, you know, just invest time in our family that we currently have, be thankful for what we currently have. And if it happens, great. And if it doesn't, then we have our plan for January and we know what we're going to do and we're on the same page. And that's really what matters. So that will do it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you are subscribed if you are not already, and turn on that bell notification so that you don't miss part number 3. And you can expect that, like I said, in very early January. So until next time, thanks for tuning in. Bye, guys.